I'm a naturopathic doctor. They don't really exist in this country. Basically, it means I've studied medicine, but I don't give out drugs. Okay? I work on a complementary approach. In my practices in South Africa, I worked in integrated practices, which means I worked with a team which included a GP, which included body workers, mind workers, etc. This is where I'm hoping, praying that we get to in the UK, because it's such an awesome experience visiting a practice where you know you've got a team working on you, as opposed to just one person you've seen for 5 minutes, if you're lucky, right? So hopefully I'm going to not just teach you something about hormones, I'm going to inspire you to inspire your practitioners that they should start integrating, okay? Because it's a new concept here. Right, my talk has some techie slides. Please don't be afraid of them, okay? It's my job to understand the techie. It's your job to take away about 3 points of this whole talk. Just 3. I'm going to start off by introducing you to functional medicine. Does anyone know what functional medicine is? Oh, I do! Yay! Okay, so functional medicine is this wave of medicine that's sweeping as a concept. It's not what you give the person, it's the way you think about them, okay? So any doctor, any practitioner, any health coach can practice functionally. And what do I mean by functionally? Is we don't look at the leaves of the tree and go, for every ill, I'm going to prescribe a pill. If you have a headache, you're going to get a painkiller. If you're going to get this, you're going to get that. Go to this specialist, etc. What we do is we go a little bit further down, right? Because if you have a pot plant and it starts to, if the leaves start to change color, you don't paint them green, right? What do? Please tell me you water it. Throw it away, get another one. Okay, so this is where we sit at the moment. The paradigm of medicine that you're sitting in at the moment is, if you have an issue, you go to an ologist, okay, a specialist in that issue. Now I'm just going to put a few things up here and see how many specialists you'd go to. Because everything I've just mentioned here can be related to something hormonal. Okay, it can be related to something you're eating, something that is dysfunctional in your body. But these people don't speak to each other. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. Right? And you can be put onto multiple things, and each one of them is going to put a strain on your liver. But what we want to do is we want to look down the system. We want to look at the organizing systems of your body. Which system? Is it your circulatory system? Is it your hormones? Which system is dysfunctional? And then we look at things called antecedents, triggers, and mediators. And basically, that means what came before, and that could be anything, even preconception is important. What happens to a baby in utero can affect her if she's a girl and she's exposed to things like BPA. She could develop polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, so that's important, right? Was the mother stressed? Was your mother stressed? What was she going through while you were being made? Because all of those hormones would have washed over you, right? So we go through antecedents. Triggers are, I've never been well since. So you might have a few. And mediators are, what are you doing in your day-to-day life that's keeping you in that space, okay? Because unless you identify those things, how are you going to fix them? How are you going to fix a thing if you know that it's, oh, sorry. If you don't know that it's that one habit you have that's keeping you ill, how are you going to fix it? Right, then we look at mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? Genetic predispositions, which I can only touch on today because that is a rabbit hole that we're not going to go down. And experiences, attitudes, and beliefs. These are all very important. And more importantly, that little arrow just shows you where hormones fit in, is we look at sleep and relaxation. Okay? Because if you're not sleeping well, you're not healed. Simple. Okay? And if you're stressed all the time, I'm going to show you a little bit about what stress does to your body. Basically, exercise and movement. Are you actually moving? They say that sitting for too long is the new smoking. Okay? If I was a really good speaker, I'd get you to stand up every 10 minutes. I've actually gone to a lecture with this crazy man called Bob Grabowski, and he made us do Tabata. Have you heard what that is? Okay, it's like 5 minutes of exercise, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. So we'd have to do 5 minutes of that every half hour. It was awful. I mean, lovely, it was amazing. Okay, nutrition, that's a no-brainer, right? Stress, that's come up again. And relationships. Ooh. Anybody here had a toxic relationship? How's that affected your mood? Not pointing at anyone. So today I'm just going to look at what we call the HPATG. Okay, basically what that means is sitting in your head, in your brain, you have this section called the hypothalamus that regulates everything. And it talks to something called the pituitary gland, which regulates all the hormones. Okay, and they're talking to each other all the time, literally regulating you right in this very second. Okay, and they then talk to the adrenal glands. They sit just above your kidneys here. Does everyone know what the adrenal glands do?
They produce.
They're your freak out glands. Yeah. So you know when you get a tax return and you haven't quite prepared for it? Okay? I don't know, that's just an example. Walking through the streets and a loud bang goes off, you know that feeling? That's your adrenal glands giving you a signal to do something. That's what it looks like. Doesn't it look delicious? Then we have our gonadals. So in women it's going to be ovaries, and men it's going to be testes. And then we have thyroid. Okay? Thyroid is where you get all your energy from. It's your seat of metabolism. It what makes you warm. And you can't have a problem with one without a problem in the other, and lots of people these days will go to a doctor and find out they have a thyroid problem, but they won't address the adrenals and the gonadal problems. Okay? Or they'll go to different ologists, and they'll get treated differently for each one when they should actually be looking at them all together. Okay, so that's them. And the goal is to maintain balance between all these systems throughout our changing lifespan. So you're born, beautiful, I'm going to talk about girls, okay? Sorry boys, because they're only like, so you're born this beautiful baby girl, right? And you have this imagination, and you go play with your friends, and then around about 12, something happens, right? What happens? All hell breaks loose. Anybody here got 12-year-olds? Oh, yeah. Right. All hell breaks loose. It goes literally from a flat line of hormones to this. Okay? All hell breaks loose. And then it kind of regulates itself, which should. Okay? Ideal world. This is your reproductive cycle. It goes up and down with your hormones. And then what happens? Another section of hell breaking loose called menopause, which was never quite as rough as it is today. Okay, it is definitely much worse today than it was, and there are reasons for that, and it's basically called our environment. And so what are hormones made out of? Mostly they're made out of cholesterol. So a lot of people went on a zero-fat diet for many years, and one of the things that happened is hormones were affected. Okay, cholesterol is the mother of your sex hormones, so estrogen and progesterone, but also your stress hormones. Okay. So if you're not feeding your body with the right ingredients, not giving that fat, unfortunately your hormones will eventually suffer. Your hormones are also made out of amino acids, so the right types of proteins. Okay, getting the right foods in there. This is a short summary of all the different hormones. And if you look right at the top here, that beautiful little structure there is cholesterol. You see, it's the thing that starts everything. Okay, now who's been told they need to be on a low cholesterol diet or zero fat diet? And that was most of the 80s and 90s and part of the 2000s. Right? If you lived in the same era that I did and got the same information, it's only recently that people have realized that fat's not that bad. Okay, it's actually pretty good. So I just want to show you that all the way down here, that smiley face is cortisol. Cortisol is one of your stress hormones. Okay, it's a good and a bad thing in the right doses. That smiley face is estrogen in its different forms, because it does have different forms. And that one there is testosterone. And just take a look at how testosterone converts to estrogen. Did you know that that was going on in your ovaries all the time? That we make testosterone to convert to estrogen. So what happens in men? Do you think it's something that doesn't happen in men? Have you noticed how many men suddenly... Okay, that's why. Okay, so let's take a look at cortisol. I'm not really going to talk about adrenaline because it's like a super fast hormone. It's there and it's gone. Whereas cortisol is a lingerer. And if you have too little, it's a bad thing. If you have too much, it's a bad thing. So up there you have stress. Now stress could be physical, like you've injured yourself, or you could be lying in bed, getting ready to go to sleep, and you just remember something bad happening. Okay, who does that? Pretty much everyone. Right? How does the brain do that? Anyway, just thinking about a stressful event will have the same hormonal influences in your body. Right? So you've got to catch yourself when you're doing that. Just breathe, get yourself out of that moment. Because what happens is, this flurry of activity on the screen here happens, and you start to freak out. Your body starts to convert everything that's part of you into sugar so that you can run away from whatever you're supposed to be running away from. But you're lying in bed, so you're not running away. And all sorts of bad things happen. This is just a wheel of what happens when you have excess cortisol. So you have the stress that's ongoing and it's not going away and you're not dealing with it. So decreased metabolism, depression, high blood pressure, fatigue, sleep deprivation, migraines, tunnel vision, acid reflux, hostility, hunger, arthritis, etc. More importantly, decreased immune system. Now I'm going to show you high and low together and how complicated it can get, because those two stars are on both sides, right? These two stars are on both sides. These ones, both sides. So unfortunately, the symptomatic effects can mirror each other. So you don't know which one it is without actually looking properly. So you don't know from your symptoms, do I have too much or have I actually just got too little now? Okay. We'll talk about testing them in the moment, but this is where you want to write stuff down. He says, telling him to write stuff down.
There's paper on the table, there's our feedback forms, but there's pens as well.
If you want to nourish your adrenal system, which we all do, by the way, because none of us live in a stress-free environment, okay? None of us. Even people who have perfect lives seem to get stressed about things these days. You want to nourish yourself. You want to eat good quality fats. Okay? Omega-3, and if you're vegan, you want to be getting your omega-3 from algae. Okay, but you want to be getting it. Vitamin C, fantastic for the adrenal glands, amongst other things. I mean, it will help your immune system. There's this fantastic compound in green tea called L-theanine, which when people are freaking out consistently and not able to bring themselves down, that's actually a supplement they can take. So if the green tea drink isn't working for you, you can take L-theanine. And it'll calm you down. Cheese. Thanks, Kate, for the excuse me. Yeah, we've done that. Appreciate it. And soybeans. Soybeans are a little controversial though, because some people are sensitive to them. Plus they're GMO, etc., etc. So the main thing there is this ingredient called phosphatidylserine, which is fantastic for your brain. If you have any family history of dementia or Alzheimer's, that's a supplement you might want to get your hands on, because it actually builds your brain.
Could you just repeat that?
Sure, it's phosphatidylserine.
Can't read that.
I'm going to spell it for you, because otherwise, PHOSPHATIDYLSURINE. So they've done research on phosphorine. I call it phosphorine because I'm friends with it. But they've done research on phosphorine and early onset Alzheimer's, and it's actually been able to reverse. So amongst other things, like we're going slightly off topic because I think it's important, but dementia and Alzheimer's is called type 3 diabetes. So if you have it in your family, you need to treat yourself like you're a diabetic. Okay, sugar kills the brain. All right, so how do we assess the adrenal glands? Blood, not the best way. So if someone's suggesting you test your adrenal glands through blood, just say no, because it's not really going to give you the answers that you want. The two ways that I like to use are either saliva. Now the thing about cortisol specifically is it is the hormone that wakes you up in the morning, so it's a little bit higher in the morning, and then it drops in the evening, because we have another hormone called melatonin, which goes up, and that's our sleepy, and they awake and sleep sort of interact with each other. So you need to take your cortisol test at least 4 times in the day to get that flow. Okay, so you can see if you've got enough to wake up with, or if you're waking up when you should go to sleep, which is very common these days. So people almost invert. They wake up tired, and then by the time they're supposed to go to bed, they're like, time to do stuff. They're called night owls. So what I have here is just an example. The cortisol is on the right-hand side. And this one at the bottom is a dried urine test, which is fantastic. Another test that you have to do a few times during the day. But it looks at metabolites as well, so it'll tell you exactly what's happening to the cortisol, not just how much cortisol there is. So there are these fantastic tests that are not available on the NHS, I'm afraid. Okay, but they are available, and they are fantastic. Once you have answers like this, you know exactly how to pinpoint your treatment routine with regards to your adrenal glands. And the test at the bottom doesn't come just as a standard adrenal test. It tests a whole bunch of things, which I'll show you at the end. So thyroid. Anybody here had a thyroid problem diagnosed or suspects a thyroid problem? That's the most common problem that there is on the face of the planet at the moment. They call the thyroid the canary in the coal mine. Do you know what that is? So coal miners used to take a canary down there, and when it died, they knew they had to get out. So the thyroid is the first thing to go wrong. It's the first thing that basically starts screaming that you know of. It's not necessarily the first thing that's going wrong. And it's tested through blood, and a lot of times people will get told that they're normal when their thyroid is not normal through blood, unfortunately. But yeah, what are the symptoms? Cold. You'll feel cold all the time. You'll be the one in the room that when it's nice and warm and everyone's in a t-shirt, you're in a blanket. Okay, cold sensitivity. Dry. You might even start losing your eyebrows. Gain weight. Okay, all of these tick the boxes. All of these are saying that there's something wrong with your hormonal system. And I'm not calling it the thyroid, I'm calling it the entire system. If there's something wrong with your thyroid, there is something wrong with the rest of it, right? That's how I started this talk. You can't have something wrong with the one and not the rest of them. All right, so this is the hypothalamus talking to the thyroid, and talking to the pituitary, which then talks to the thyroid, and the thyroid produces a few hormones, but basically one called T3 and another one called T4. Now what happens if you are stressed is, unfortunately, you produce something called reverse T3. Now reverse T3 isn't picked up in a normal thyroid function test. What it is something that looks exactly like T3, binds to the same receptors, but doesn't turn on the thing that it's supposed to turn on. So it's basically just taking up space. So your normal T3, which is active, comes to where it's supposed to be, but there's someone already there, so it can't do its job. Okay? And that reverse T3 comes from your adrenals, it comes from your stress. Do you see the link? Okay, I'm going to show you the link between estrogen and the thyroid as well. So if you're suspecting you have a thyroid issue and all your tests are coming back normal, insist on having that reverse T3 looked at. You might just surprise yourself. And then you have to look at treating your adrenals, not your thyroid gland. Okay, that's something I'll get to later. So what do you do if you want to make sure your thyroid gland stays healthy without getting tested, without anything? Brazil nuts. 3 Brazil nuts contain enough selenium for the conversion of the inactive thyroid hormone into the active form. So if you're selenium deficient, you're going to have problems with your thyroid hormone activity. So you need a little bit of selenium. Their source, Brazil nuts. Sea vegetables. What do sea vegetables contain? Iodine. How many people eat loads of sea vegetables in this country? Not enough. Not enough. Eat your seaweed.
Sorry, what is a sea vegetable?
It is, do you eat sushi?
No.
Have you ever seen sushi?
Yes.
It's the green stuff around the sushi.
Oh, okay.
So sea vegetables are seaweed.
Sunflower.
Seaweed, samphire,
Nasty stuff. Vile.
vegetables that grow in the sea. There are many different forms of them. So like my favorite is to go to a Japanese restaurant and order a seaweed salad because they're delicious. They are delicious. Okay, again, you need your nourishing fats. Okay, so you need those fats. You need good quality meat because there's an amino acid called tyrosine. Tyrosine is the amino acid that your body needs to make these thyroid hormones, okay? So you need iodine, selenium, and tyrosine. So if you're getting good quality meats, Brazil nuts, Sea vegetables occasionally. There's a herb called maca, which works on pretty much all of the hormones. So if you're feeling like your hormone is being imbalanced. It tastes a bit like Horlicks. Is Horlicks a drink that exists here? Yeah. Okay, cool. Fermented foods, that's sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, kombucha, and you don't need a lot. You basically just need like a tablespoon, or if you're having a drink, it's like half a glass. Don't drink a whole bottle, like my students used to do, and freak me out because you're basically putting lots of bacteria in there, which is a good thing, right? But too much of a good thing? No. It creates a condition called SIBO. And then fiber. Fiber is excellent at cleaning out the hormones that your livers basically try to get rid of. They sit in your colon and you need to get rid of them. Okay. I've given a little flow diagram here that starts with number 1. Cultivate a healing mindset. You can't heal any part of your hormonal system without having the right mindset. Number 2. Eat an anti-inflammatory diet. Basically that says eat food that's food. Right? If your food has a marketing campaign, don't eat it. Right? Next, restore your gut health. If your gut's unhealthy, what happens then is you can reabsorb all the shit you're trying to get rid of. Okay, quite literally, and you just recycle it. Fix your nutrient deficiencies by eating your Brazil nuts, etc. And if that's not working, take a supplement. Okay? Handle your stress. Why? Because the adrenal glands affect the thyroid glands, affect the gonadals, right? All of them affect each other. What does that say? Reset natural rhythms. That's really important. Your circadian rhythms, your sleep cycles. Okay, we are designed to be awake when there's light and asleep when there's dark. Don't fight me on this, night owls, because that's what we're designed to be like. And if you reset your circadian rhythms, often your hormones will reset themselves. Quite brilliant. And then if you need to, detox, which is a great time of year to do it, by the way. So how do I test thyroid function? I don't tend to draw bloods very often. I'll do a blood spot, which is looking at things like antibodies as well. So I'm looking for the autoimmunity, or dried urine, which will also pick up the things that can irritate the thyroid, like toxic heavy metals, arsenic, bromine, and all of these things, mercury. Then I often look for a reverse T3. But I don't look at the thyroid on its own ever. You've got to look at them together because you're not just a single part of your body. You are the sum of your parts. Right, sex hormones, we're almost there. I want you to understand that you can balance your hormone levels without necessarily taking hormones. Okay, that's important. Must I read these out? Can you read those? If you recognize any symptom on there, put your hand up. Excellent. You see all of you there. Okay. These are all symptoms of a hormonal imbalance and they can all be fixed. That's the thing. So all of these things are what influence your hormones, your genetics. So I will do genetic testing in certain people. I won't talk to you about genetic testing today because as I said, that's a massive subject. Chronic stress. If you're stressed, you need to do something about it. You either change the situation or you change your perception of it or you get help. Okay, you do something. Fix your gut. Look for any nutritional imbalances which are rife these days. Look for any toxins, and there's a word there called xenobiotics. Have you heard that word before? These are things from outside our body that act like hormones inside of us. Okay, these are things like plastics. So if you heat plastic, you are introducing a xenobiotic into your body, and you are going to be disrupting your hormonal system. The oral contraceptive pill would fall under that category as well. Any kind of exogenous outside of your body hormone. Okay. History of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse can also affect you. I'm going to skip right over genetics because I'm losing everyone. Right, men, this is for you, and we're going to go really quickly. You've got this hormone called testosterone. It does a lot of things. It decreases over your lifespan, and here is something very important. Men as young as 30 are showing signs of low testosterone. Reason for this? Stress, diet, lack of sleep, genetics, environment. It's always environment. Most importantly, men can convert testosterone into estrogen. So in the practice that I was at, we'd have these men come in and they'd go to the GP and they'd find out that they had low testosterone, and they would give them a testosterone injection. In some men, this is the worst thing you can do, because what do? They take all of that testosterone and immediately convert it into estrogen. And what happens to a man when he's full of estrogen? He becomes really annoying. Okay, so for men, these are the foods that they should eat. Look at oysters. Oysters are full of zinc. That's not a fallacy, by the way. They are really good for the male reproductive system. Bananas, eggs, cheese, garlic. Yes, garlic, but please not on the same night. Or feed her garlic at the same time. Okay, these are some supplements. Right, women. I'm going to show you the 4 different hormones, and I want you to take a note of those colors. Okay? The one line in the middle, this line here, that's textbook. All of the others are the variety that we have individually and across our lifespan. Okay? So we have the average being that line, the stage of our life, showing a little bit more variety, intercycle variety, in other words, 1 month could be quite different to the next, because you're stressed 1 month but you're not the next, right? Or between different women. So a lot of women, as an example, are experiencing infertility, and they're having sex the normal, I want to fall pregnant way, which is around about day 14, right? Okay? What we're finding is some women are ovulating day 21. So they're almost a week off the mark. And if we get them to have sex on the day they're ovulating, suddenly things change. But women are way more complicated than men. This is just a summary of how women work. Okay, it's my job to know this. So what I do is I look at patterns and complexity. Okay? Very, very simply, what are things that disrupt our hormones? Nutritional insufficiencies, inflammation, stress, being overweight, altered detoxification or biotransformation, toxins, infections, food, smoking, intolerances, etc., etc. Basically, what I'm saying is environment. Okay? I'll give a little example. A couple of years back, I was in an extremely stressful situation. I was basically 5 weeks where I thought my life was going to end. Okay? It's in a very dangerous part of the world, and my period stopped. And it took me 6 months to recover from that. Why did they stop? Because I thought I was going to die every day for 5 weeks. So that's what stress does. So how do you assess your hormones? There are a few laboratory tests you can do. I'm going to go through the one called the Dutch test because it's by far the most interesting. And with genetics, it's usually a cheek swab. So this is the dried urine test. It is by far the best test that anybody can run. I run it on myself once a year just as an MOT to find out how am I doing, because you can predict illness many months in advance, and if you find out that things are going awry at that point, you can prevent yourself from getting sick in the first place, and prevention is far better than cure. And this is basically what it looks like, some of it. At the top I've got estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and they're very simply like dials. Okay, so if the arrow on this one here, see if I can do it. No. The arrow on this one here, you'll see is a bit too high. Okay, as a dial, it should only be between these two spots here. This one is too low on the other end of the spectrum, so I'm looking at an estrogen dominant state here immediately. This is cortisol. And this person is flatlined. They probably don't even get out of bed in the morning. Even more importantly, on this side here, we're looking at testosterone, because some women have too much, okay, and then they develop things like polycystic ovarian syndrome. More importantly, we've got the 3 different types and how your body metabolizes them. And from this, we can see what is your predisposition to genetic damage, in other words, cancer. Right? So this particular one, this red line that goes down to here, this one here, if you follow down further, that's a picture of DNA. If your body is favoring that pathway of detoxing estrogen, which a lot of women do these days, unfortunately, you're automatically high risk for breast cancer or any of the estrogenic cancers, regardless of your family history. There's only really one pathway we want, and that's this one down here. And you can actually fix that pathway through food and supplementation. So, have you heard of a supplement called DIM? Okay. Broccoli is fantastic, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
So when you chew broccoli, you release this substance called indole 3-carbinol, and when you swallow it, it hits your stomach acid and it creates this thing called diindole methane. Diindole methane is the food that pushes that pathway. Unfortunately, nowadays we have to eat about 4 kilograms of, what's that in pounds? 8 pounds? Yeah. 8 pounds of broccoli to get the amount of DIM you need if you are pushing the wrong pathway. So you might need a supplement. Okay, this is looking at the adrenals a little bit more. And then we look at things called organic acids, which are essentially, you put food in your face, it gets created into things, and if you're missing specific nutrients, your body makes too much or too little of the thing you're supposed to make. Okay, so we can see, are you low in vitamin B12, vitamin B6? Do you have issues with your neurotransmitters? In other words, you're not breaking down adrenaline or dopamine too well, so you're getting anxiety. So we can get all of that. I'm offering a discount if you want to talk about it. Now quickly, we're going to go interventions. Foods that help you to detox, I've already mentioned. Broccoli, yay! Well done, everyone. But any of the cruciferas, which are cabbage, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, as women in particular, but also men, you should be eating something like that every day, along with your stinkies like garlic, onion, leeks. These are all very good for detoxifying the body. Avocados for your good fats. Exercise, sleep, and relaxation. Avoid toxins. That's a long conversation. I'll talk to you about it if you want to know. If you want to understand which foods you need to eat through eating 100% organic versus ones you can just pick up off the shelf, there's a Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen worksheet. It comes out every year and it is slightly different every year, so do keep an eye on it. Strawberries are always on the list of the Dirty Dozen, so always eat strawberries organic. Grow your own. We can talk about supplements and bioidentical HRT if you're interested. And that's it.
Bio-HRT.
Bio-HRT.
Yeah, because I know some of the ladies in here are quite interested in that.
Oh, it's an up and coming thing in this country. It's quite hard to get. So bioidentical HRT means that it is the molecule that of the estradiol or the progesterone that they've got is usually plant-based, and it's almost exactly like ours. Unlike the synthetic ones, which they usually get from pregnant horses, it's a very different molecule and it's a much more aggressive molecule. So bioidenticals are safer, gentler, generally like they're the only route I would go. I would never go synthetic. Synthetics scare me. Yeah. What else? Any questions?
Oh, there must be loads of questions.
I just have one about the whole eating of broccoli and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
But they have to be raw.
I like people to eat in different ways.
Okay.
So I have the occasional raw, but not too much because it can affect your thyroid. They did studies on what is the best way to eat broccoli, and it was if you steam it for about 1.5 minutes. You know when you take broccoli and it's raw, it's kind of a funky weird gray-green, and then you cook it slightly and it pops this beautiful color, that's when you should eat it.
Yeah.
So that's my preference. Don't overcook it unless you like it that way. But nowadays you can do things like make broccoli and cauliflower rice. So it can be.
So if you had someone come to you that was on synthetic HRT and want to stay on synthetic HRT?
No, that's fine. Then we just support the detox pathways. Because it is a much more aggressive form of estrogen, you have to be on the things that support your liver. Because the liver is going to take the strain. And if you have any form of gut imbalance, the rest of your body will take that strain as well. Okay. Not everybody is susceptible to the issues that synthetic hormones will give, but many people are, like the majority.
And the same with the pill? Yes. So you could support them while they're on the pill and stuff?
Contraception's a very big subject. We do need to go home. But yeah, I mean, like, as a functional doctor, an integrated functional doctor, I will work with anybody and anything because, if somebody's on medication, I'm not going to take them off it.
Do you have an age? I mean, obviously we're a group of mixed age women and here, but with regards to say younger children, young adults, is that a good time to actually look at them and see someone like you so that you can get an early picture of where they
best
sit?
time.
Yeah.
In fact, I would actually like to meet them
What sort
before
of
they're
age?
even conceived. Because then I have much more control. That's my best.
But you would say any age then, or is
Any
there a
age.
particular?
So I created a course called Female Health from A to Z, which I essentially designed for the everyday woman to understand each life stage. So there's 4 modules where it's anatomy and physiology, and a very long module on the hormones because I talk about a hell of a lot more hormones than I have tonight. But then I dedicated an entire module to what do you do to educate a teenage girl? Because I wasn't told the stuff I needed to know. And I certainly wasn't told the stuff I needed to know for my 30s and 40s. And thank God I know what's coming. And I'm preparing already. I'm 43. Menopause is definitely within the next 10 years of my life. And I know what I need to do now to prevent the hell that I treat every day in other women. Because it really is getting quite severe. And when I speak to my colleagues around the world, we speak about why is it getting so much worse. And one of my esteemed colleagues, her name's Felice Gersh, she and I were having a conversation about the amount of hormones that we are experiencing now versus what we're supposed to experience. And just to give you an idea, a hormone is like a drop in the ocean and it has an effect on you. Okay, that's how strong they are. And then we are throwing in these massive amounts, either through hormone replacement or IUDs or whatever, and then we're drinking them and we're eating them and we're breathing them. And it's like, if you've ever been to an event where you're listening to someone and they're really loud and eventually your ears kind of tune out, or you're smelling something and eventually you don't smell it anymore, this is exactly what happens to your receptors. So when your ovaries eventually stop making the estrogen, the only supply that you have after that point is from the conversion in your fat. So you can't be too thin around menopause, all right? So if you're wanting to lose weight, then wait a little bit because that's where you're going to get the estrogen from. And it's a tiny amount in comparison to what your ovaries have been giving you. So your receptors, which have been yelled at for the last however many years, 30 years in some cases, suddenly get this minuscule amount of hormone that they have to respond to. It's like they just can't handle the amount that isn't there. It's too much taken away too soon. So I can't change the past, but I'm definitely trying to change the future. So if you want to talk to me about that module on how to talk to teenage girls, I'm all in it. But if you know people who are wanting to fall pregnant, they're my favorite people. Because literally, fixing a woman before she falls pregnant has much better outcomes for the future than a woman who is potentially not that well, who wants to have babies, because you make children out of what you're made out of. So, cool. Anyone else? Anyone brave enough to?
Can I ask something? So, working alongside, for all of us here, trying to integrate more of your style of medicine, how do you balance the two? You've got your GP who's been doing testing with you or maybe giving you drugs, and then you're talking to your and without the cost suddenly soaring into...
I can't really answer that here. I can answer that for South Africa if you want to take a trip. It's pretty, but it's dangerous.
Unfortunately, we have more people doing that. So
Yeah.
We have families. We are very lucky. We have our doctor in Manchester is fantastic.
Yeah.
He's more open to stuff. I think what it is trying to find like you said, people that will talk to each other because
And I have the same doctor in water, so,
Yeah.
very lucky. But I'm also aware that, that the NHS will spend a lot of money on specific tests for you, and something comes up. And then what do you do? Because every time anything's come up for me, I've then refused all the medication and then done all the research myself.
I can't really answer because I don't know what's come up with you. But I know that a lot of people will get testing under the NHS, but the testing under the NHS is archaic. It's like 30 years behind what it should be in with regards to the rest of the world. So I think the NHS is amazing. It was there to stop people from dying, and it's very good at doing that, but it's not good at keeping people healthy. And there needs to be a paradigm shift amongst the community. You've got to actually take a little bit of initiative in your own health, unfortunately. And yes, it will cost a little bit of money, but it'll keep you safe and healthy for longer. So ideally, you want to live a long, healthy life, not just a long.
No, it's a balance. Something says have an MRI or whatever. But it's like when you've got the information, could you then take a diagnostics thing to
So
you
I can
and
work
say,
with any diagnostics, by the way. I have worked in hospitals. I am a doctor. I just don't prescribe drugs. So if you've got tests you want me to look at, I'm more than happy to look at them.
So then you could go. I'm just thinking for all of us because I work in the same terms of field, but people bring their information to me and then I unpick and then
So often a scenario will be that I'm like the last person people want to come see. They usually have a file about this thick because they're usually seeing nutritional therapists, and I'm literally the last in the line. And I will go through that file, and I would say almost 100% of the time I will find the answer that they've been looking for in those tests that someone unfortunately missed. I've got 20 years of experience. This is a new field in this country, so I know I've got 20 years of experience on most people here. Just gonna. Just saying. I told her I was gonna say I was amazing.
That's why you're here.
Anyway, I hope I didn't scare you too much with words. And that did you all learn 3 things? Do you know more than 3 things?
Can I just ask you, can you go back to the slide which had the dirty dozen on it and couldn't
Sure.
quite see what
you
they were?
can find it online.
Okay.
This is all going to be available for everybody anyway. This whole thing is available.
But if you Google Dirty Dozen Clean 15, you will get the most current list because it literally changes every year. So So for everybody today, if you are interested in doing any investigations on yourself, I will offer. I don't get much leeway with regards to the laboratories, but where I can give discounts, I will. So I can offer a 10% discount if you want to investigate under a particular laboratory. So they would include the things like all the tests that I've shown you today. But there are literally 500-600 tests that I could offer you. I just need to know you before I prescribe tests because I don't just randomly prescribe tests. But if you're interested and you want to do them, tonight I will be offering that 10% to you as a thank you for not falling asleep.
Any more questions?
Yeah, so testing, sorry. So when you say testing, do you do a lot of that yourself at home? And then
Do all of it at home.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a good question, thank you. So what happens is I will sign you up to the laboratory, and then you have a portal that you go into, and your invoice will be there, and when your results are ready, and I've seen them, I'll release them to the portal. But once you've paid your invoice, they send you the kits, and not many of them will require a blood draw. But if you do need one, I am a phlebotomist as well, so I can stick needles into you and take blood. But the majority of the tests that I run are non-invasive, and they're done at home. Like, I don't want to take your stool sample. Thank you. No, not at all. You can do that at home. Send it off to the lab, and I get this nice, clean report. So yeah, and yeah, most of them are things that come out of your body naturally.
Where do the tests actually go then? Are they staying in this
They
country
go
or the rest of
all
America?
over the place. The majority of them go to America. So your tests will fly around the world. They first go to Denmark, and then from there they'll get sent to whichever laboratory.
So your poo flies around the world.
Your DNA will fly to South Africa. That's the lab for DNA is in South Africa. The majority of the other testing laboratories are in America, but there are some in Europe, and there's one in the UK.
So are we like one of the first, as countries go, we are...
Ireland's about 7 years behind you, but that's it. You're second last,
Just
not
like
last. So South Africa and America are probably about, I would say, 25 to 30 years ahead at the moment. China's not far behind, along with Australia.
Is that because they're funded?
Not funded in South Africa, I had to fund it myself. No, it's just, I don't even know how it found us. I think some of us were looking for it. We don't have an NHS in South Africa. It's all private if you want to get well. So
you're invested in yourself then, aren't you?
you're 100% invested in yourself. And we kind of have this mindset of you put a bit of money aside in order to keep yourself healthy. Right, and then you look at your health care as it just becomes part of your groceries and whatnot. It just becomes a part of your life, and that's something that I've noticed is something I need to change your paradigms of. You need to invest a little bit in yourself, and it's not. When I say it's expensive, it's only expensive in the beginning. It gets a lot less expensive the longer you do it. Because you don't need to do all the tests later on, and you'll eventually know the things that your body needs, and you can maintain yourself in a relatively cheap way. So, if you're willing to invest in stopping yourself from ever getting sick, this is the way you want to do it.
And surely it stops you from having all those awful invasive things that you can go through.
So my other speciality is autoimmune conditions. Now 20 years ago when I was graduating, autoimmune conditions were like unicorns. If you saw one, it was, oh my God, that's so amazing. Nowadays I'm seeing one almost every week, and sometimes 5 or 6 in one body. Okay, again, changing environment. Our immune system doesn't just start attacking us, it's getting information from the outside that it's interpreting or misinterpreting, as the case may be, and it's attacking us. So you can pick up an autoimmune disease 10 to 15 years before diagnosis. But try and convince people to find out if they have one. Nobody wants to do that.
So sorry, very basic. You have a consultation review, like what's that, an hour, and you say,
Okay, so my process is quite different to anything you'll come across. You need to register to my practice and then fill in 3 sets of very intense forms that can take you anywhere up to 6 hours to fill out. It's all done online, and you don't have to sit at your computer the whole time. In fact, that's not good for you, so don't do that. And chances are you'll need to phone a friend or two, like your mom, and find out the things about yourself. So the forms are gathering and then analyzing you. Then what happens is I will read them. I will find out all about you before I even see you. Then the consultation is about 45 minutes, and in that, I'll fine tune what I've seen in the forms. Maybe order some tests or put you onto a base plan. Okay, so what that means is I can't treat anything without building foundations. You know, it's like building a house, getting better. You don't start with the roof, you start with the foundation. So sometimes people need a month or two of intense gut stuff before I do anything else, because what's the point? And then we move on to the next step, the next step. It's very layered.
so if you're okay that prevention's better than cure, let's say somebody knows what prevention is, or we're going down that line.
Absolutely.
So, you might look at things and say, actually,
Yeah.
actually.
Please come see me, because prevention is like the thing that I really want to get people to do. I like treating people, but I much prefer not treating people. I like catching people before they get the diagnosis. because then you can reverse stuff, you know? Yeah. Don't have to get sick. Cool.
Okay, thank you. Do you have comments?
I brought some. Like a diligent student. I didn't bring that many, but I did bring some. Anyway, it was great meeting all of you. Thank you.